Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Ballers Show. If you're new here, my name is V. Lee. This is the show about sharing real estate experience, knowledge, and real life lesson. The purpose is to help you to reach your financial freedom in real estate investing faster. In today's episode, I attempt to answer this one question because I get asked all the time. So I figure I just make an episode about it. So here's the scenario. Everybody is talking about how much money they make on Airbnb. So I have a house or I'm buying a house. Can I turn it into a short-term rental? So, is this the right house for a short-term rental? Well, the first and very important question is, can you legally do it? Because in some area, short-term rental is banned. For example, in Sugar Land of Texas, you cannot do rental of less than 30 nights. So first of all, check your deed restrictions. And the common response I get, funny, right? The common response I get is this. Well, my neighbor does it. Well, my neighbor killed his wife. Just kidding. Well, so that's one answer I get. The other answer is I call my HOA and they said it's not legal. Well, you know what? If you call the HOA, they're going to tell you it's not allowed because most HOA do not like short-term rental. So you're going to need to ask for documents in writing to read it, review it, and check that short-term rentals are allowed. And you also need to further check if for some reason they want to change the bylaws or the deed restrictions. What will it take to make that change? Because I had that happen too. It was allowed and then they changed the bylaw and it wasn't allowed. So that's the first and foremost important question. Can you legally do it? If you had a situation that where it happened to you where they didn't no longer allow, leave a comment below. Let me know what you do. Okay, so in this quest of answering the questions of, is this the right house for short-term rental? The next questions we want to tackle is, what will it rent for? And this can be really tricky because every house is unique in its own way and its own style, right? Then you throw in the finishing look of the house, the amenities that you're going to put in it. So here it is that no one will tell you. It's a guesstimate. It's not an exact science. So to get this estimate, you need to know the nightly rate and the occupancy rate. And there are tools like AirDNA. If you go on AirDNA, you put in your address and number of bedroom, I believe it's going to tell you what the rent is. However, I don't trust AirDNA because it's scrap data. So they're going to pull all the nights that were blocked and they're going to use an average nightly rate and they're going to estimate the rent. So it's not a true estimation of rent, okay? So just keep that in mind. But I always use several sites to compare. So I would go on Airbnb.com, I'll go on VRBO.com, and I'll look at the other homes in that area, probably within a couple blocks of where my subject property is. And then I see what kind of rent they're getting to see what each of these property look like. I literally go into and click on each of those links and see the property, okay? See what kind of future booking they get because you obviously cannot see their past booking. You can only see future, okay? Also look at hotels. If there's hotels in the area, what are the hotels charging? And then you can kind of back into your number. Again, that's like I said, it's a guesstimate. So you're just going to guess to see what your house might rent for a night. And then, we use about a 60% occupancy rate to calculate, but in some area, you may have a different occupancy rate, right? So we use a conservative number of 60% to calculate our rent projections. So that is how we come up with the rent. And scary as it sounds, a guesstimate. Next is the questions. What will it cost to furnish the house? Because if you're gonna do it for long term, you don't have to worry about the furnishing costs. If you want to do it for short term, you're gonna have to, consider this part, right? So As you do your research on your rent, you should also formalize your vision of the home, okay? What amenity are you going to include? What kind of finishing look are you going to have? Because you can spend $15,000 to furnish a 4-bedroom, but you can also spend $50,000, so 15 and 50, to furnish the same home, okay? This is where you got to spend your money wisely. Spend where it matters most, like, buy better mattresses, buy more durable stuff, right? And then you got to have a vision of what your house would look like, because you got to be competitive. Just like when you go travel somewhere and you look at hotels, right? There's like the Hyatt Place, and then you get the Marriott Town Place and Spring Hill Suite and all of that. They are the same category, but they have different rates. So house is the same, right? So you got to differentiate yourself from your competitors. So use your competitor as a study, and then differentiate yourself to see how you can set yourself apart. And that will determine what your cost would be to furnish the house. If there's a way to spend less to make your house stand out, well, do share it with us. If you have, if you're really good at shopping and good at furnishing and make your house look awesome. The other part about this also is, how will that process look like? Are you going to hire a designer to do the whole work, all the work for you? Or are you going to do it yourself? How will the furniture be delivered to the house? Who will put the furniture, the chair, the dresser, the bed? Who's going to put that together? Who's going to hang that picture on the wall? Who is going to, do the painting, the curtains? And you cannot skip out on the blackout curtains either. So do put all of it into your Excel sheet, or whatever calculations, if you want to use Excel sheets or pen and paper, but do make sure you include all of that in your calculation, okay? Because it's going to affect your cash on cash return, right? And it's going to affect your cash flow per month. So for those of you that are doing short-term rental, where do you buy your furniture? What do you do with furniture? How do you furnish your property? Leave us a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so now here comes the next part, the next questions. And whenever I make a decision on something, I list out the things I need to know, right? That's how I come to my decision, because I want to use data. I want to leave my emotions out of it, because I don't want to be that impulsive buyer, right? So these are the questions that I ask myself whenever I come across a property. When a property become available, do we want to convert it short term? When we buy a property, do we want to buy this for short term? So that is my decision making process. So monthly expenses. Obviously, you're going to have your monthly PITI, and we talk about that in another episode. It's the monthly principal, interest, tax, and insurance. So regardless if you do long-term or short-term, that amount is the same, okay? So you're going to have your monthly payment. Then on top of your monthly payment, you're going to have utility like water, electricity, and maybe gas. You got to have internet. You got to have yard maintenance, pool maintenance if you have a pool. You got to have maybe cable or a streaming service like Sling, Hulu, Netflix, or Prime. So make sure you add those expenses in, okay? And there's also an expense that is a maintenance expense. And these are small expenses that damage caused by guests. So for example, they break the toilet paper holder, right? Or a slat on the bed got broken. These are the minor expenses, and I have mixed feeling about this, right? So some hosts want to go after the guest for every expense, but look, you got to think of it like you're running a hotel, a boutique hotel. So are you going to go after your guests for every little expense? So if you don't care about your 5-star rating, then maybe it's your call. The other expense also, you got the linens, right? Towel linens. And I will tell you, I have a mountain of stained and damaged towel and linens. Yes, they get stained all the time, especially there's makeup on the towel. There's, I have no idea what people do with the towels. So, but they get stained and they don't come out. So that happened a lot. So you just got to factor all of that into your expenses, okay? And then there's another expense, but I think we got to ask these questions before you want to include that expense or not, because it may not be applicable to you. The next question is, should you self-manage? Well, do you want a full-time job? Do you want to clean the house if your housekeeper does not show up? And do you want to talk to guests? I mean, if you don't mind any of these and, you're okay with it, then maybe you self-manage. But if you have another job and you want to be flexible and you don't want to have to deal with this, any of the aspect of the running a hotel, then you may want to hire a property management company. Okay, so the last and final questions, now that we put it all together, are you going to make money? Because if you're not going to make money, what's the point? Well, maybe you're one of those that said, well, I get fulfillment, enjoyment, bragging right for owning this property, and you're okay with not making money. But you are one of the very few. So how do you know if you're going to make money? It's easy. Will the rent that you receive be enough to cover your expenses? If you get enough rent to cover all your expenses, that could be a win. If you get more rent than what your expenses will be, that's a bigger win. Here's another win is when your property will appreciate over long-term hold. So you will also get the equity capture there, okay? So there it is. At the end of the day, you got to ask that big questions. With all the rent that you guesstimate, and with all the expenses that and this is crazy. In short-term rental, the expenses are easier to estimate than the rent because the rent is a guess. So if you're going to make money, then I say it's the right property. If you won't make any money, or if you're going to be in a negative cash flow, then it may not be the right property. It's your call. And that is all. Thank you for watching the Real Estate Ballers show. If you find value in this show, help us out by spreading the words and give us a shout out on social media. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. See you next time.